This is my console back again with Dr. Julie Miller, a writing coach, and we're going to pick up where we left off last time, Julie. We had concluded our last recording by talking about really asking the question, the rhetorical question at that point, which was, why are people so fearful of writing, and whether or not, I actually believe it's tied to the fact that we rarely are taught, most people are not taught how to write properly from the beginning. In fact, we are taught in a manner that actually discourages us right off the get-go. So I'll just go ahead and kick off with that, Julie. And to me, I think back to writing training, and when I get together with groups, do writing workshops, I think there's a consistency there that it resonates with people that when we were kids and we were in English class, rather than given a writing assignment, rather than being rewarded for our sense of adventure, for our spirit, for our bravery in writing, for our characterizations, for our imagination, we were taught punitively. The instructor would focus on punctuation and grammar and so on, which of course is critical. But rather than start off with simply saying, don't worry about the punctuation, don't worry about the editing, do what you can. But what I want to see is you soar. I want to see your imagination. Right. I want to see you create characters. I want to see you tell a story and put something on paper or on a computer screen that shows that you've got that spark, that spark of creativity. Then we'll worry about replating the copy with proper punctuation and whatnot. But once we were punished, we got papers back that had red ink all over it. Writing was never taught as a fun adventure. It was taught as a punitive measure in an English class. And ever since then, who wants to move forward and have fun with writing at that point?
And the only other kind of writing was a book report, where you ended up hating the book by the time you were done. And it was, this very, now I do believe that some writing does deserve, and I think writing has a formula to it. But you're absolutely right. Most of the papers are read. They're never told. We were never told. Even in college, I remember, a comment here, a comment there. It meant nothing to me because there was no context around which me to figure out what they were talking about. And the second is, you're right. After a couple of red marked papers, you say, why try? My ideas aren't worth anything. So, yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Well, and you get somebody a writing assignment today, and you just see, you can see it in their face, and then you can see them sit down and it's so onerous. Because so many people just look at writing as something that is a tremendous burden, and there's always that echo of the punishment, the red ink from years past. And I have to say that one of the best writing books I ever read was written by a woman named Brenda Euland, and it was called If You Want to Write. And basically,
I don't know that book.
Well, it was a very simple message she had. She said, write just like you talk. Then clean it up.
Right.
Obviously you're not going to go to print with colloquialisms. Some you will. But if you would, and I've seen this so often with people, I'm sure you have too, where people are very articulate about something, and then once they sit down to write, the voice changes completely. All of a sudden, they're not articulate anymore. They're not fluid anymore. All of a sudden, it's this very stuffy type of writing. It's boring. It's stuffy. They start to use these big words. They try to sound eruditious. And it's kind of like, hey, just talk to me. Talk to me.
But you know, Mike, that was drummed into us. Writing is not like talking. It is different. It's to be more academic and more formal, and it isn't to be loosened up. That was never taught to us. We were told, you do it this way, and plus, let's throw in diagramming as well, where we get on the board and we diagram all those sentences. Yes, this helped us understand grammar, but it became onerous when in turn you had to write something. You had that diagram in your head and you're trying to go, now how am I supposed to construct this? And any instruction was more intro, body, conclusion. That isn't enough to help folks where writing doesn't it's harder for people to write. There are some personality styles where writing is more difficult because it's, in a way, symbolic, just like reading. And
so complexity,
set them up.
As you're saying, there's complexities added to the process, and the irony there is that the best writing is actually very simple writing. It's clear, not unsophisticated, just simple in that the person understands what they want to say, and they say it very clearly, just like you would say it in the spoken word.
That's correct.
And I always preach that always make the first draft conversational. You can make it formal afterward, but if you make it formal, trying to go to conversational from there is a much harder task.
It's very hard, very hard. And I also think that, we talked about this last time, that when you put your thoughts on paper, you really are expressing your thinking. And no one wants to come across as being foolish or, not an expert in their field or whatever. So there's also that fear on top of it. What if I look stupid when I write something?
Yes, that's always a fear. It's a fear even when in brainstorming. It's what holds people back from really exercising their imagination.
Correct, because they're fearful, well, maybe this isn't such a good idea. They're self-editing before they've got a piece of any word on the paper. Right.
Well, and the beauty of writing is that you can have complete freedom because it's for your eyes only until you decide that it's ready for prime time, until you have revised it. And that is something that is so, and look, I've been writing for many years, and it's difficult for me, despite all my experience, to simply let yourself really be free with the writing. It's difficult because there's so many strictures that have been overlaid on the process and overlaid on us, not just in writing, but in life. I want to share with you a great quote I just picked up. I'm reading Joan Didion's biography, and the author, it's Tracy Doherty is the author of this biography, and she said that Joan Didion said, "I don't know what I believe until I write it down." Yeah. And the writing process is a process of real clarification. We work with our thoughts, and we put them on paper, and then we mull them, and over time, and it really takes very little time in most cases, we start to get some clarity, start to understand. I mean, I've seen people literally write something down, and they're evaluating, and they're saying, they look at it and they say, well, wait a minute, that's not what I'm trying to say. Well, that's not really what I believe. I don't know why I said that. That's not what I believe. And then they go right back to work on it. Right. But there's a freedom in that.
Well, I tell people, writing is really fun because really what you're trying to do is solve the problem for the reader. How do I say this so the reader will get it? And that's the fun part, is to kind of figure out that reader and what does he or she really want to hear and know about, and that's the fun part. And that what people find is, I'm writing it once, and if you don't like it, that's it, rather than realize a draft is a draft. Do you remember, and I'm going to blank on her name, but the book is called Bird by Bird.
Oh, yeah, Anne Lamott, one of my favorites.
Anne Lamott, and the funniest scene in that book is she and I've added to it, but she said, is there anything worse than getting in a car accident and rather than worried about whether your underwear is clean, you're worried about if anyone's going to see that draft in the back seat.
Exactly. Yeah, she talks about writing shitty first drafts. Allow yourself to do that.
And it's such a great book. Such a great book.
And once you give yourself that freedom, that largesse, be what's the word I'm looking for? Be charitable with yourself. Right. Allow yourself to write badly, because this is the point she makes. Everybody writes badly on the first draft. Right. John Updike writes badly on the first draft. Toni Morrison wrote badly on the first drafts. Everybody does. It's a sculpture. It's a work of art that takes time to synthesize and to and basically chisel away at.
Well, Hemingway, doesn't he says, it's the 100th draft before you're really pleased with what you have to say. Here's John Cheever. I can't write without a reader. It's precisely like a kiss. You don't do it alone.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Isn't that a great one?
Yeah. It really is. It really
but
is.
I think a lot of people say, right. Oh, here's Gene Fowler. Writing is easy. All I have to do is sit down and wait for drops of blood to form on your forehead.
Yeah, that's the way it is for so many people. But
yes,
the truth is, it doesn't have to be that
exacting a
process. Especially once you allow yourself to understand it isn't going to come out right the first time. It's not even going to come out pretty the first. It's going to come out ugly the first time. But that's okay, because it's amazing how little follow-up work needs to be done to get it to a kind of condition where all of a sudden you see that light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, a couple more revisions and this thing's readable, and then maybe a couple more revisions after that, and I've got some sparkle.
Well, I also think oftentimes is that people write and they think, oh, that's good to go. And I say it's not good to go. You let it, the body heat go out of that document, step away, come back to it, print it out in a different color font and a different style of font, anything to, trick your brain into looking at that work differently in order to really revise and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So
strategies. Everybody's got their own strategies for doing it. Not everything works the same for everybody.
No,
but,
absolutely not.
A little bit of practice, and you realize what your coping mechanism is, what your strategy is for inspiring. And one of the best inspirational methods I've ever found is reading good writing just before you do your own writing to just get inspired, particularly if you're looking to strike a particular tone and a writer who actually writes with that tone. It really kind of sets the mind in the right place, and emulation is how we learn. Emulation.
Mike, have you ever read any of Wallace Stegner?
He's an author who's missing from my library, I have to admit.
His writing is so gorgeous. I mean, I catch my breath at almost every sentence. I mean, I know we're both word nerds, but I love his writing is phenomenal. I haven't read him in years, but it's quite astounding. And I'm now listening to Educated. Boy, can that gal write. Can she tell a story? Can she describe the wind in her valley that she lived in? It's just amazing writing.
Who is this?
It's called Educated, and I'm drawing a blank on her name. It's Tara, and I cannot remember her last name. I'll have to look it up.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Google. We can always that's easy enough. So Educated is the book, and we can always find the author. So we've taken up a bit of our listeners' time. So what's the takeaway here? Let's leave our listeners with a takeaway before we sign off here. Julie, why don't you go ahead and go first?
To give yourself permission to just start. Don't aim for perfection. Just aim to get something on the paper. That's how to start.
And I would just add to that while you're doing it, allow yourself, actually I'll quote Stephen King on this, bring an attitude to it. Bring an attitude. Bring a bold attitude.
I love that.
Have fun with it, and be aggressive. It doesn't matter whether you haven't achieved a great deal in terms of writing accomplishments. Anything you do, with some few exceptions, certainly with interpersonal relationships being an exception, being aggressive with it, even if you haven't mastered it, even if you're not all that good at it yet, you're always going to do better if you're aggressive or bring, as Stephen King says, that attitude to it. Just lower the shoulder and charge.
And I will say one more, get a coach.
Please.
Get a writing coach, to help you. Really, it's true.
Yeah.
You will be better when people
you want a writing coach is a good writing coach is a friendly reader, but one who will load you up with constructive criticism that you can put right to work. So, Julie, until next month,
yes.
Thanks for your time, and have a great rest of the, have a great 30 days, and we'll reconvene with a new topic
Wonderful.
next month.
Thank you, Mike.